So I started the recording.
Okay. So, yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank Dr. Kamal for accepting our invitation. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce you today. So we are going to talk about the future need for petroleum engineering. Basically, our speaker is a Chevron Fellow Emeritus. He is the 23rd third president and honorary member of the International Society of Petroleum Engineering. Kamal has over 45 years of industry experience in well testing, reservoir description, and production reservoir engineering, as well as management experience in development and deploying research and engineering projects. He is the lead author and editor of SPE Monograph 23, Transient Well Testing, and he published repeatedly in various referred SPE journals. He served as technical editor, review chairman, and executive editor of JPT and SPEREE, and he is a peer apart member. He holds bachelor degree with honors from Cairo University in petroleum engineering and a master's degree and PhD degree from Stanford University in petroleum engineering with a minor in computer science. Kamal served as an SPE Distinguished Lecturer from 1997 to 1998 and from 2018 to 2019, giving his lectures more than 80 times in 35 countries. He has won several regional and international awards, including the Cedric K Ferguson Medal, the Formation Evaluation Award, SPE Distinguished Service Award, and the Texas Petroleum Engineering of the Year Award, and served on the SPE International Board of Directors from 2007 to 2009, and the Regional Director of Western North America. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Medhat Kamal.
Thank you, Habib, for this nice introduction. And I would like to thank all of you for inviting me to share some thoughts about the future need of petroleum engineering with all of you. Just for your information, I just published a column actually yesterday on JPT, and I invite all of you, if you can go to the link of a JPT from yesterday, and you are going to see a column summarizing the discussion that I'm going to share with you today. So I just want to make sure that. So the main conclusion that I would like to share with you for my discussion today is that, number one, is the energy landscape is in a state of transition. Actually, it has been in a state of transition for a long time. Now, there are certain things that are affecting the transition. Some of them is a short-term things like the COVID-19 pandemic, and some of them is a long-term effect, like the climate change. We're going to talk about these things. Also, petroleum engineering is in a state of transition. It actually has been in a state of transition for more than 100 years in order to match the energy needs of the world. And petroleum engineering, in addition of being in a state of transition, it also has a significant part to play in the climate change debate that is going on and will continue to go on for a long period of time. So let's talk about the transition that's happening in petroleum engineering. Let's start talking about drilling, for example. The first well that we drilled happened back in 1895 in Pennsylvania. And that well was drilled to a total depth of about 70 feet. Today, we drill wells offshore in a water depth of more than 11,000 feet, and we reach a total depth of more than 30,000 feet. So you can see that the transition that is happening in the area of drilling. When we talk about fracturing, for example, the first fracture that was done, we did that in 1949, and that fracture happened in the Hugoton gas field in the state of Kansas, and we used 3,000 gallons of fluid. Later on, in the early 80s, when we started developing tight gas fields, we started using more than 250,000 gallons of fluid to fracture massive hydraulic fracture, and we used about 500,000 pounds of proppant. And then later on, when we started producing from shale gas, right now, when we are producing from nano-Darcy's formation, we actually drill horizontal wells and we stimulate them by having multi-stage fractures. Each one of these stages have several fractures in them. So you can see the huge difference between when we first started fracturing wells and where we are right now. In the area of reservoir engineering, the first thing that we did was we used decline curve analysis. Decline curve analysis didn't have any physics in it. We're just simply looking at the decline in the production from the oil rates from wells, and we were trying to predict the future rates of the wells based on the previous decline in the rate. By the way, what you're looking at now, the decline curve analysis, today, this is called machine learning. Although the mathematics involved is a little bit more complicated, however, it is the same concept. There is no physics, but it's just simply using mathematical functions. Then we graduated, we started using material balance, and after we used the material balance, we added to it water influx. Then we graduated more, and we started using numerical solutions, first with 1D, then 2D, then 3D. And now we're actually using data science and engineering analytics in order to help us predict the future performance of our wells and reservoirs. So you can see how our engineering, our petroleum engineering is developing and continue to develop with time. One of the other things that continue to develop is that we are, rather than only producing from what used to be called conventional reservoir, we are producing from unconventional reservoir. Very simply put, conventional reservoirs we're producing from formation that has enough permeability in it that fluid can flow. With unconventional, we are not really producing from reservoir type rock, we are producing from source rock that does not have enough permeability in it. We are actually fracturing the rock. We're actually making reservoir type rock from source type rock in order to produce it from. And you can see from this graphs in front of you that we are in the United States by itself have a large increase on the gas and oil production that made the United States towards the end of the last decade more energy independent. And as a side effect of that, you can see on the graph on the right that the CO2 emission has decreased considerably because of the reduction in the because of the increase in the natural gas production. So by increasing the natural gas production, we started to help with the climate change situation, and that one of the things we're going to be talking about later. So the main point that I'm trying to make so far is that petroleum engineering has been evolving and it's changing over the last 100 years because of the change in the technology, and also because the need for more and more of our products, oil and natural gas, has been increasing because of the increase of the number of people that live in the world and the need for their energy. And as petroleum engineers, we have been increasing in our technology and in our capability, developing our engineering capability in order to actually answer the question and actually produce a product that the people need. So when we talk about petroleum engineering, we're talking about that we have been characterizing, we have been developing, and we have been producing oil and gas fields successfully for the last 100 years. And like all energy resources, we have been continuously transitioning and developing over time. The current challenges that we have, two things. One of them is in the long term is the climate change. Now we're talking about what can we do in order to make sure that we do not increase the temperature of the planet we live in. And also over the last couple of years, we've been having the challenge of the pandemic that have been gripping the world. So now there is a question about, okay, how much of our products are needed for the time to come? There have been a lot of predictions, and these predictions are happening from several resources. There are two main governmental resources that are producing predictions. One of them on the American side, this is the Energy Information Administration from the United States government. It's called EIA. And one of them is happening from the European side, from the European Union. It's called the IEA, International Energy Agency. This is one group, the governmental group. And there is another group that comes from mainly the international energy organizations, like the major oil companies, ExxonMobil, Chevron, Shell, British Petroleum, and the main national oil companies, Saudi Aramco, Petrobras, Petronas, and so on. And here is a shot of what are these things. So, by the way, all the predictions are similar. They all about the same. You look at what the thing they are saying, say that this is the forecast of what is going to be needed for until the year maybe 2040, 2050 and beyond. And you can see that on it say that when you look at it, it say that as far as oil and as far as natural gas, you can see that there is a range that is say that for the year 2040 and 2050 and above, the number that we're needing is going to be a little bit higher than what we have today. By the way, these are scenarios. I would say here the word, you're looking at the word, is the word scenario. These are not predictions, these are scenarios. Scenarios mean that, okay, if you think that the given things are going to happen, given governmental things are going to happen, this is the scenarios that will happen. The predictions are usually give you numbers that are higher than what you're looking at here. So we have in the scenario to say that actually, oops, I need to go back. There is a scenario to say that we actually will be needing at least to be producing what we're producing now and a little bit more for decades to come. And these things are talking about, like, what happened is that you are talking about you have to be increasing the renewable by a whole lot, which is fine. We all are, and we all need to be doing what we have to do in order to make sure that we're keeping our planet in a very good shape, and we need to be able to reduce any adverse effects to what we're working on. This is something that came from the United States Energy Information Administration, EIA, and I just want to make you pay attention to the title of that graph. I kept it as they published it. The title says that the renewable are the most used energy source by 2050. That's the title. Now I want you to look at what is the renewable number here is. The number of the renewable, if you look at it, this is the green line. It's about 250 quad BTU. Okay. Now look at what the oil is. The oil is about 240 quad BTU. Look at the natural gas. It is 200 quad BTU. So the oil and the natural gas combined is 440 quad BTU. So you add the two numbers together, and you can come up with the conclusion you want to come up with. The main point is, what I'm trying to say is that there are a whole lot of things we are going to be doing within our industry. There's a whole lot of things we need to be doing as petroleum engineers within the conventional work we are doing now in order to reduce the effect of the greenhouse gases in the work we're doing, as far as reducing our emissions, as far as making sure increasing our efficiency in order to have more efficient work we're doing. And we're going to do that. We're going to talk about that. But we are going to be needing more and more of our products for decades to come for two main reasons. The main reason number one is that right now there are 7.5 billion people live on Earth. By the year 2050, there will be 9 billion people live on Earth. There are 1.5 more billion people who are needing more energy. That's number one. Number two, the standard of living of people living are continuously improving, which is good. And there is a whole lot more people who are living in areas other than the North America and Western Europe, who right now are living without using as much energy as North America and Western Europe, that they want to be living using as much energy as those of us living in these areas live, and they should. So then the amount of energy needed are going to be increasing, therefore need that. And there is really not enough energy available from other sources other than oil and natural gas to be able to satisfy the thing. So we need to continue to produce more oil and natural gas for decades to come, while we are developing additional resources from renewable and other things. We need to do that because we do not have enough energy from oil and natural gas to satisfy what is needed for all people. This is the available energy mix. This is from also from the Energy Information Association. This is similar to the graph I showed you before. I just want to show you that the thing doesn't change a whole lot from year to year. And this is a similar thing. I intentionally left that one. This is from 2016. That's 5 years ago. And the main point I'm making here is that the numbers don't change. This one here shows that in 2016, from oil and natural gas, 54% of the world energy in 2016 was from oil and natural gas. By 2040, 48% will be from oil and natural gas. However, the amount of energy needed, the volume, is going to increase for the two reasons I mentioned to you before. And that is, one more time, this is the so-called sustainable development scenario. This is not predictions. These are scenarios done by the international agencies. This is the European stuff. So the main point is, we need production from oil and natural gas for decades to come, and we will continue to develop more and more of renewables. We have to, because oil and natural gas are not sufficient to give us all the energy that we need. Okay, so that's one point, point number one. Point number two, what do we need to do as petroleum engineers to help us with the point about the climate change? One of the main things in order to help is to get rid of carbon dioxide. And the way to get the main thing that needs to be done here is to get the carbon dioxide and inject it into under the ground. That is the main option that's available to us now to get rid of carbon dioxide. Who is going to inject the carbon dioxide under the ground? Petroleum engineers will do that. We'll do that for several ways. One way, of course, is that to inject it in order to, as an enhanced oil recovery process. But this is not, by the way, if we do that, this is not really a good way to get rid of CO2, because when we inject it, as all of you know, you're petroleum engineers, you inject it in order to get to increase enhanced oil recovery. You inject it, it pushes the oil out, but then we'll produce it again with the oil. So we'll produce it again or inject it again. So that's not a good way. That's not a good way to get rid of CO2. A good way actually to inject the CO2 is that we inject it into formation and we keep it there. It's not we inject it and we get it out again. So that is this picture here, or this picture here. We inject it and we keep it down there. Okay, one more time. We're the one who do that. We're the one who are going to inject it and we do that. So we're the one who will have to do that. And we're doing that, by the way. It's not one other. We're doing that. Here is an example. This is a project that is underway. Just one example. This is a project underway in Australia in a very large field. It's called the Gorgon field. It's where we can see here that we are injecting 5 million tons of CO2 per year. This is the largest one, by the way, in the world right now. And we are just simply injecting it and leaving it there. And by the way, this is happening in a place called the Barrows Island. It's a very environmentally sensitive area. We're doing that in a very good way. I invite all of you to go online and look for information about that and get yourself more knowledgeable about this. And you are going to see that this is something you can actually talk with your friends at the university about some of the good stuff. You and us, we're petroleum engineers, we're doing in that area, and we'll continue to do stuff like that. Another way actually we're going to be working on that is this. As more and more people are on the ground, there is not enough water for people to use. one of the work that people are doing is they're trying to find way to produce fresh water, and we try to produce fresh water from underground aquifers. And you produce the water from underground aquifer. When we talk about we're going to inject CO2 under the ground, and we're saying we're not talking about injecting CO2 to produce as an enhanced oil recovery. One more time, because if we do that, we're going to bring it back out again, which is not good. So we can inject the CO2 in depleted oil and gas reservoirs, because now the pore space is available. Because if you try to inject CO2 in areas where there is already fluid there, there is not enough room. But if you, on the other hand, other than depleted oil and gas fields, if you try to inject the CO2 in aquifers where you're trying to produce water for people to use the water, fresh water, to use water, then that's another place where who's going to produce the water for people to drink? That's petroleum engineers. Who's going to inject the CO2? That's petroleum engineers. Another way of helping is producing and using hydrogen. There are, as you probably know, there are, when we talk about hydrogen, we talk about gray hydrogen, blue hydrogen, and green hydrogen. Gray hydrogen is actually when you actually use natural gas, and we actually can convert it into hydrogen. But when you do that, you produce CO2. So that is kind of like plus and minus. Blue hydrogen, when we actually use natural gas, we produce hydrogen. We can use hydrogen as a source of the energy, and we inject the CO2 underground. That's called blue hydrogen. And then, of course, the green hydrogen, this is something we are not involved in that because we're not using natural gas as a source. So for that one, we're not as involved as mainly in the blue hydrogen. But okay, when we talk about, oops, now I'm going the wrong way. When we talk about the gray hydrogen and the blue hydrogen, this is again, it is us who actually are doing that work. Another way we are involved is called geothermal, new geothermal. And you all know in geothermal energy right now, in geothermal energy, people are producing hot water or hot steam from areas where there is abnormal high temperature under the ground. So people are, we are, when I say people, I mean us, petroleum engineers. We are drilling and we are producing this very high temperature fluids, and we're doing that to produce electricity. In the area I'm living here, in the San Francisco Bay Area, we have a lot of our electricity generated from that. But now under the new geothermal, we're not really producing high temperature fluid. We're actually drilling very deep wells, and very deep. So when we actually temperature of the earth is very hot, and you're actually circulating fluid there, where you're actually extracting the very high temperature from under the ground, producing that heat and do it. So think about it. Think about it this way. When we talked about conventional and unconventional reservoirs, and we said that in the conventional reservoir, we're producing oil and gas from reservoir type rock, and in the unconventional, we are actually producing from source rock. Think about the new geothermal the same way. In the new geothermal, we are producing the heat not from the abnormally high temperature rock, we are producing it from the normal temperature rock. It's just we're drilling deep enough to get the very high temperature from the ground up. And think about it one more time. who's going to drill these deep wells? Who's going to complete these deep wells? Who's going to give everything under the ground? This is petroleum engineers. We're doing that stuff. So, and of course, as we continue to do that, the development is going to improve. Our ability to do the thing more efficiently will improve, and we're going to be doing it more economically and more. We have a lot of work in front of us, and we are going to continue to develop it like we have been developing things over the long period of time. In addition to doing these things, we are also doing other things. Like, for example, we're having the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative. This is an initiative that we are doing it among all, as you can see here, by a large number of our organizations on a voluntary basis in order to engage, take action in the area of climate change to make sure that we're doing things the way it needs to be done. And by the way, in addition to doing stuff in the area of climate change and everything, we are continuing to do things in the traditional way of doing our petroleum engineering work. We are continuing to improve our way. What you're looking at here is just one example that I had to get from several things that we are doing in the area of normal reservoir engineering using machine learning and data analytics. This is just one example from one paper I got, for example, where your colleagues working in the Tahiti oil field in the Gulf of Mexico were doing some work by which they were able to reduce the amount of work that needed to be done. For example, work that needs to be done taking 92 hours to be done by an engineer. However, that work can now be done in less than 5 minutes. This is work done to analyze all these tests, but now they are doing all that work now in a very, very little amount of time. This is we are doing developing the technology. We're not standing still, either on the conventional petroleum engineering traditional work and in the area of transitioning the energy transition, in the area of climate change and so on and so on. So these things are going to continue to work, and the work we are going to be doing and the courses that we are going to be that are being taught in the universities are going to change with time. Like what I learned at school when I was at school long time ago, with all due respect to all of you guys are still at school now. When I was at school, your age, what I learned at the school now is completely different than what you guys are learning right now at school. Just some things are changing. They're going to continue to change, but we will need all these things change. We need you to continue to change and continue to develop, and that's what we will be needing to do the work. And you can see by the graphs, there will always going to be going ups and downs in the number of people and number of people are in based on the price of oil going up and down. As some of you may remember, like only about a year ago or something, 2 years ago, with the pandemic and things like that, the price of oil for a couple of days even went to negative or something. And today it's like about $75 or something like that. So don't worry about these things. It's going to continue to change. However, our industry is going to continue to transition and change and develop all the time. So there will be some changes. So the traditional subjects are going to be needed for decades to come. Now, additional subjects may and should be available for our engineers to match the industry changes. Some of these things will have to be done. Maybe we'll have distance learning, we'll have a collaborative offering. And these things are going to continue to change. One of the things, for example, is when we talk about we need to have more and more courses are going to be taught at universities. Things are different in different parts of the world. I learned petroleum engineering where I was born in Egypt. And when I learned petroleum engineering, in order to get a bachelor's degree in engineering, you needed at least 5 years, in the United States, as all of you guys here listening to me today, you need 4 years. And when I actually sometimes suggested maybe you can do that 5 years, a lot of people got mad at me. So maybe one of the things that can be done is that we can have specialties, subspecialties in petroleum engineering. Like, for example, we can have drilling engineering, production engineering, reservoir engineering, subspecialties. There are different parts of science and engineering have different specialties. We don't have to have, we don't have to have all petroleum engineers, all special expertise in everything. Some of the things need to be think about. All these things change all the time. So anyhow, all the things are fine. Some of the things that, one more time, as a result of the continuous increase in the technology and the development, and the main thing is that these things are going to continue to happen and continue to develop because we will be needing these things for decades to come. So the need for oil and natural gas production, it will increase for decades, in spite of maybe a small decrease in the percentage of the volume is going to increase. The world population increases, the economic developments are increasing. The practicality of the available energy resources is increasing. Petroleum engineering, like all other engineering disciplines, will continue to evolve. The environmental issues and the consideration will happen. We are part of the solution as well as we're part of the development that's needed. Carbon storage were part of it, groundwater were part of it, hydrogen were part of it, geothermal were part of it, and so on and so on. Petroleum engineering education is needed and should match the energy changes. We talked about collaborative, distance learning, sub-specialized degrees, and so on and so forth. So these are the thoughts that I have about the future need for petroleum engineering. And I will be happy to maybe have answer any questions you guys may have now for a few more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamal. It was a really informative session. We really appreciate your time. Like, you gave a lot of us more hope into this career path that we are pursuing, and this will inspire more people to go into more in-depth topics that may be part of petroleum engineering in the future. So our dear attendees, if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat or speak up by unmuting your mic.
Dr. Kamal, this is Alexei Huerta from Peru. Congratulations for your presentation and very illustrative about the future scenarios that we are going to have. What would you recommend for Latin American countries? Probably you know that we are continue exploiting our gas and oil resources. Do you think that the transition, the energy transition, would occur in a very fast way, or probably will be slowly as compared to Europe and other countries?
I'm sorry, I don't think I heard your question. Would you please say it again so I can hear you right?
Okay. My question is about that. You know, for Latin American countries, we are continue exploiting the oil and gas resources. Do you think that the energy transition is going to occur as the same speed and in Europe and other countries, or probably here we can continue keeping the university studies on focus on petroleum engineering and similar fields?
Yeah, absolutely. See, in different, we need petroleum engineers, and we need people to continue to produce the oil and the natural gas, and we need the skills and the engineering discipline. We need that. Now, in different parts of the world, the production is going to continue to happen. It's not going to stop. Now, when we talk about, for example, the production within the different parts of the world, and when we talk about where the amount of production is happening, you do not see that this production is declining. Like, for example, you do not see the production in the United States declining fast more than the production in the Middle East. Relatively, that is. For example, you talk about Europe. When you find a company like Total, which, for example, right now they said we're changing our name from Total to Total Energy, TE. And okay, there is no, with the exception of the North Sea, there is no oil in Europe. So when we talk about that, the reduction in the oil production in Europe, what are we talking about? The oil production in Russia is not going to drop. The oil production in the North Sea is not going to drop. They are not going to cap the oil wells in the North Sea. We are not going to cap the oil wells in the Gulf of Mexico. So the change in the oil and the gas production is not going to differentially change in part A of the world versus part B of the world. So my point is that the need for the number of people who are able to produce, drill and complete and produce the oil is the same. Whether you actually are having these people by the way, when I talk about these people, I'm talking about us. Whether we have these people educated in University A or University B, or as we've been doing that, by the way, for a long time, having these people educated in different disciplines in university, and then having these people hired by companies, and then we have them trained in by the companies. For example, where I worked for several companies. The majority of the people I work with are not petroleum engineers by degrees. They are mechanical engineers, civil engineers, electrical engineers, and then we take them in the company I work with and we train them to be petroleum engineers, because there isn't enough petroleum engineers worldwide. We don't produce them. And then, of course, you know, like you have the thing that, for example, we can't get, for example, all the petroleum engineers that we produce, for example, in Indonesia, and we bring them to, and we make them work in the United States because of all, you know, how visas in the world work and things like that. So yes, we will be needing people educated in petroleum engineering all over the place. Yes, we will still need them. Yes. Now, one of the things that we will be needing is that we will be needing to be thinking about, okay, in addition to the traditional things we were talking about, what should we be working on in order, because we are also going into the area of energy transition. What additional skills should we be getting in order to help us with the energy transition along the line? So we should be add that to our engineering education. Our universities and our petroleum engineering department should be adding that to their curricula and helping our students with that thing. So there will be so that would be part of their skill set to go with them for a long time. But in the long run, yes, we will be needing that for a long time to come. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your long answer.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamal. We have another question from Arbat. He says that, thank you, Dr. Kamal, for the presentation. I would like to know your thought on the topics listed below. You want to know the additional skills that a petroleum engineer must have in order to survive in the industry.
I am sorry, you spoke a little bit too fast for me. Please say it again slowly so I can follow you.
Yeah, sorry for that. Sorry for that.
No.
He wants to know the additional skills the petroleum engineer must have in order to survive in the industry.
Okay, one thing that we need to be aware of is that we need to be aware of the area of data analytics and the area of machine learning. This is something that is happening all over the area. So that's one thing. The other thing that we need to be aware of is that we need to be aware of the information about the climate change. This is one of the areas that we need to be cognizant of. We need to be clear about how are we going to be able to use our skill set in order to help with that. For example, I was talking about one of the examples. I talked about geothermal. How are we going to actually harness the high temperature from the deep drilling and get this high temperature up? There are questions abound about that. It's not, the problem is not completely solved, but how are we going to do that? These are the areas of additional areas of technology that we need to make ourselves knowledgeable about in order to be able to continue to work to be aware. So these are the areas that we all need to be more knowledgeable about it in order to continue to work with it later on.
Thank you, Dr. Kamal. We have another question. Arbat says that some of the countries are producing more petroleum engineering than the demand in their own country. This affects the job market adversely, as the number of petroleum engineers is increasing exponentially, while the number of petroleum engineering jobs isn't increasing at the same rate. What are your thoughts about this topic? Like, his question is that we have more petroleum engineering graduating than what the market need.
You're saying that why the number of petroleum engineering more than the market needs?
Yeah, he says in some countries that are producing more petroleum engineering than what the country really need. Like they have many universities that graduate the petroleum engineer, but the market doesn't need that much. So what do you think good advice would be for this people?
Okay, that question about the imbalance between what the market needs and what the graduation part that's a question that's been there for a long time. And for example, when you look at this graph, for example, which is a graph that, by the way, done by some professors at Texas Tech, if I remember right, the one who developed that graph back in 2018. You can see that the ups and downs actually goes up and down simply based on the oil price. And the oil prices fluctuate for all kind of reasons. Some of them are political, some of them are things that outside of people, of our abilities. And because of fluctuation in the oil prices go up, the enrollment in the petroleum engineering department skyrocket. And by the time the people who enter the petroleum engineering department about to graduate, something happens and the price of oil drops and the oil companies stop hiring people. And then all these good people who actually enter the petroleum engineering department now all of a sudden don't have enough positions for them to be hired at. So that imbalance is happening all the time. I wish we had a better way of doing it, but we don't. So the best way to do that is that while you are at school, try as much as possible to learn more subjects. In other words, I know that when you are at school, you have a chance to have more electives. Take as many electives as you can outside your specific area of expertise. Take a minor, for example. In other words, give yourself a chance to have other electives, other areas. For example, in my case, for example, I had a minor in computer science. Some other people have additional their electives in chemical engineering or so on. So give yourself a chance by having additional subjects outside petroleum engineering, not because petroleum engineering is not sufficient, but because of the way a market fluctuates. So this way, if something happens when you're about to graduate and the market is soft, maybe you can get yourself a chance to go somewhere else until the market picks up again, and then you're able to catch up one more time, and then you go back to the industry. And then I know that some cases when the market is very strong, we don't have enough graduates, and sometimes there are too many graduates. Just that's the way it works. I wish there is a better way of doing it, but that's the way that the market works. Help yourself by spreading a little bit of more of your education time, trying to take courses in areas outside, still technical areas, but areas outside the petroleum engineering.
Thank you, Dr. Kamal. We have a question from Omar. He says, what does SPE plan to support the student or the future engineer for the energy transition?
We are actually thinking of I have to be careful, by the way. you guys know that I'm going to be the SPE 2023 president.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
Thank you. I'm gonna guys, I'm gonna tell you something funny. So I told you that I wrote an article and it got published yesterday. Actually, when I wrote this article, I actually have more strong words in it. And when I wrote this article, I wrote strong words, the people told me, no, you cannot say that. I said, what do you mean I cannot say that? I can say whatever I want. He said, no, you cannot say anything anymore like that. Now you're going to be an SPE president, and whatever you say is going to be considered official, and you're going to get yourself in trouble. Don't be careful. Don't say stuff. So I gotta be careful. We're trying to work on things in order to make sure that we have programs to help with the energy transition. But I cannot say anymore.
We understand.
You
It's
know,
part of the job.
I wish. Actually, when I was writing, I said I wish I published that article before, so I can say whatever you want. They told me, yeah, you can. So we're working this up, but I really, because if I say something, then somebody will say the SPE incoming president said we're going to do that, and now it becomes official, and I cannot say. But we're trying to work on stuff
in the future.
We're trying to work on stuff.
Yeah, Omar have put you in a really bad situation. Thank you, Omar.
I'm talking, but right now I'm talking with all petroleum engineers. We're talking with friends, so I can. But I'm saying that I didn't say much.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you so much, Dr. Kamal.
Sure.
So, if we have any other questions, I think even we arrived like exactly at the time, like it's almost 4 sharp. So if we don't have any question, we will wrap up. Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Kamal, for your time you have provided us today, and for the insightful and the pieces of advice. This will be very helpful for the student that we have at the level of the department and all our attendees. We will make sure to share this presentation with a broader audience through our YouTube channel, SPE University of North Dakota Student Chapter. So more people will benefit from the information that we have provided. Thank you so much for all our attendees for their patience and then their time to attend this presentation. And we really appreciate your help, Dr. Kamal.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and best wishes to all of you for your studies. We need you. Keep learning that, and keep your eyes open on the future. We need you.
Thank you so much. This brings a lot of hope.
Thank you.
Everyone have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.